Hey guys, welcome back to the Nurse on Purpose podcast. I'm so excited for my next guest. Today, I'm joined by someone who is rewriting what it means to care for humans in places that we have never lived before. Christine Rincon, the Space Nurse, is opening doors that did not exist a few years ago, reminding the world that wherever humans go, care has to go too. She founded the Space Nurse LLC to build a bridge between nursing and the aerospace industry and to make sure nurses have a real voice in shaping the systems that keep astronauts alive, healthy, and human. Her work challenges old hierarchies, amplifies collaboration, and teaches nurses how to speak the technical language of the future without losing the heart of who they are. Today, we're going to be talking about her journey, her mission, and why space might rely more on nursing than we ever imagined. Christine, you're welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. I'm just looking forward to all the space talk that people have never even ventured to imagine before, especially as relates to nursing or healthcare in general. Let's talk about your background, your roots, right? Where you came from before you became the space nurse. Walk me through your career journey. What experiences have shaped the way that you've evolved as a nurse?
Actually have had it's a really long journey to get here. Actually, I started as a vet tech. So
Wow.
yeah, at first I was for anybody that doesn't know, that's like an animal nurse. So
Yeah.
you have your veterinarians and then the nurse equivalent is the vet tech. So I just knew as a kid that I wanted to take care of like vulnerable populations. So I remember I had an experience when I was like 10 or 11 that I had a kitten who had she had like a broken paw, and obviously I couldn't fix the broken paw where she would like walk on the paw like this. But because she was walking on this area, she had like a constant wound. So I took care of her wound. And I started at a young age, I was learning like wound principles. I was like, okay, well, it was wet after 2 days, so I will try to change the dressing every other day. Like I was learning this without going to nursing school, right?
Wow.
So I eventually healed the wound and I kept it healed. So from there I learned, okay, I want to do animal medicine, right? So then when I went to vet tech school and I eventually became a vet tech, I worked there and I really enjoyed it. But if anybody that knows about vet tech knows, there's kind of a ceiling. Once you get to a certain level of expertise as an animal nurse, there's not really anywhere else you can go. So I started to become interested and I decided to become a nurse at that point, because in nursing, and something that I learned then that I still advocate for now, is that there are so many things you can do as a nurse. I have done a few specialties before settling on the critical care trauma specialty that I really enjoy now. And so I always tell like nursing students that nursing is like so vast and wide. You could do so many things. So I did that. I did critical care ICU, trauma ICU. Then I went to trauma bay because I wanted them like I wanted to receive the trauma patients. So I went to trauma bay. And then from there, I went to flight nursing. So I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're an adventure enthusiast. Keep going.
Flight nursing was actually pretty cool. It's just that you have to kind of be available whenever. So, I have kids, so I can't really just like drop everything and show up to the airport. But I did enjoy flight nursing. And I kind of I've always tailored my career towards one day there will be space nursing, right? And when that day comes, I will be ready, right? So in my mind, I'm like, let me do flight nursing so that I can know the knowledge of like the highest we could go, so that I can then go higher, right? And this was in around 2015 that I graduated nursing school. And at that point, there wasn't really anything. right? So then I did, I went all the way up to flight nursing and I did that. And then maybe like a few years ago, I was like, okay, space nursing is not still not a thing. So
Right.
I think what really changed my mentality
Mm.
is when my mother passed away. I kind of
Wow.
she had ALS. So if anybody's familiar with that illness, it's just kind of they're healthy 1 year and then 2 years later, like they get really sick and they're locked into their own bodies, and it's
Yeah.
really like sad to
Yeah.
watch the
Yeah. Yeah.
deterioration.
Quickly declines. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
so when she passed away, I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm not going to wait for permission. I'm not going to wait for anything anymore. I'm just going to jump in and
Mm.
advocate, and we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of where the space nurse started. Before I even had like a full idea of what we were going to try and do, I just kind of was like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Awesome.
what brought me to where I am.
That's amazing. So let me just hone in. First of all, I'm sorry about the passing of your mom. That's a terrible thing to experience. But it also feels like it gave you some kind of sense of finality of life. Like you got to do what you have to do because you don't know when things are going to be, final. So you need to take matters into your own hands, which I love that about your story. Why space specifically? Like, what was it about space?
Space, I've always been interested in space ever since I was probably like in, I don't know, like middle school, early high school. I've
Mm.
always liked sci-fi in general, right? My favorite books and stories and things like that is sci-fi. I used to watch on TV those like Nat Geo and Discovery Channel shows of like
Mm.
every episode is a new planet.
Mm.
So I was always interested in that.
Nice.
But space nursing came about because once I kind of got into the whole, because I have my master's right now, right? So
Yeah.
my master's in nursing education. I'm always trying to learn new things anyway. Once I learned that space is a completely different like aspect of medicine. So in flight
Yeah.
nursing, you learn aerospace physiology, which is what high altitude does to the body. And we all kind of know that like if you go,
Mhm.
the higher you go, the less atmosphere there is, the harder it
Yeah.
is to breathe, those kind of things.
Pressure. Yeah.
But if you take it even further to like the microgravity environment where like we're floating around,
Hmm.
it is a completely different ball game of how it affects every single body system. And I
Wow.
just found it so fascinating that just floating around affects your eyes, your immune system, your bones, your
Yeah.
heart, your muscles, all of that, to
Hmm.
where I just became obsessed with, well, I want to learn that.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of why I even entered into space medicine in general, because I was just
Yeah.
fascinated with all the different things that we all take gravity for granted, right?
Yeah.
As nurses,
Yeah.
we expect that when we hang a bag of fluids, that the
It's going
fluids
to
that
stay
the
hot.
fluids drip, right?
All right.
But we don't think that, oh wait, if I do the same thing in
Yeah.
the International Space Station, these fluids are not going to
Hmm.
drip, you know?
Yeah.
If we're taking blood from a person, the blood is going to drip out. Like that's not going to happen. We have to get
Hmm.
blood different
Hmm.
ways. So
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
those little things just made me really
Yeah.
fascinated enough to want to learn more about
Wow. You have a thirst for knowledge.
it.
That's amazing.
My husband makes fun of me. He says, "Man, you're always
After,
learning
after,
something."
after space nursing, you're going to be like, I'm going to like heaven, heavenly nursing. Like, what's next? But that's good. It's that thirst for knowledge. It's that quest to know more and do more with what you know that makes great innovators, right? So if you don't have a desire, there's nothing motivating you, and people don't get to benefit from the gifts that are inside of you. So that's awesome. You were talking about how different things respond in space versus the way they respond, right? There's gravitational pull. We don't have that problem here because we're not in outer space. We're not beyond Earth. We're in Earth. So we have the benefit of gravity. As a space nurse, what exactly do you do you do? Have you like shadowed people? Have you had mentors in medicine who have kind of taught you about space nursing? Talk to me about what you would be doing as a space nurse.
So there's things that I want for the space nurse role in general, right? So I guess I can talk about what space nursing looks like right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, there are nurses working in the aerospace industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those roles are kind of spread out all over the industry. I have met a nurse who is the essentially like the chief medical officer for like a big space organization. I have met nurses who are like medical operations
Mm-hmm.
for the space centers, so
Yeah.
the different space centers.
Mm-hmm.
And I have met nurses who are working in like the technology space. So they have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of like informatics background, and they're working in the informatics, like in the technology, like coding kind of space. And
Mm-hmm.
they have all three told me the same thing, right? When I asked them, like, how did you get to where you are? What like advice would you give as far as like training and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
all say in some form or another that you have to take your clinical knowledge that you already
Mm-hmm.
have and input it into the language of engineers, right? So the people that
Okay.
are essentially shaping aerospace are the
Mm-hmm.
engineers, right? The ones that are
Yeah.
building the rockets, the ones that are thermodynamics, how fluids work in
Mm-hmm.
space and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people that are making the organizations that are creating the different technologies that we see, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, they are building machines that
Mm-hmm.
people are going to use, right? And they have dreams, like if you've noticed, like SpaceX and all these other corporations,
Mm-hmm.
of creating rockets that will take us all the way to Mars, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are building space stations that will have hotels that people can go and live in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't speak our language, right? They don't speak the language of
Right.
medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't speak the
Don't
language
speak.
of engineers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that I was the charge nurse of a 24-bed unit, right? They
Mm-hmm.
don't know what that means. They
Mm-hmm.
don't know what that means, and they for lack of a better term, don't think that it matters, right?
Right.
Until they build something, right? And somebody gets hurt, right? Because they
Yeah,
didn't have our input into it.
that's right.
So, um, all that to say is that for me, the nurses that are in aerospace right now are kind of building the groundwork of they were able to take their clinical skills and
Mm-hmm.
change their understanding of how to express their clinical skills, right? To these
Right.
engineers. And they did
Right.
it without, like I'm telling you, there's no formal training for this. There's no,
Mm-hmm.
this is how you need to, express, I put in an IV catheter, but the vein blew, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How to express that into the terms that they
That
speak,
they
like
understand.
the if shall, they call that in human factors engineering, they call that if
Mm-hmm.
shall statements. So
Mm-hmm.
if this happens, then this shall happen,
Then
right?
this will
Those are the
happen.
terms
Right.
that they understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're building a new IV pump, right? They don't care so
Mm-hmm.
much about what we care about, just
Right.
about the pump and how it works.
Right.
So, I feel like because a lot of people, some people have come to me and said, this is a future thing. Like you're talking about the Star Trek Enterprise for like, they're more of an older population. So you're talking about the Star Trek
Mm-hmm.
Enterprise where nurses are there and we don't have that capability. We do have that capability. If they're talking
Mm-hmm.
about going to Mars, which is going to take 6 months to get there,
Mm.
right? And we're going to have a communications delay of at least 30 minutes, right? That
Mm-hmm.
means if I call back to Earth and say, hey, I need this, it's going to take at least 30 minutes before they hear that, right?
Right.
In the time it takes for my call to get there and their call to come back, anything
Mm-hmm.
can happen, right?
Right.
So I think that we're actually behind the curve. If you guys
Mm.
are trying to design hotels, right? That means we're not trying to survive space anymore, right? A lot of the
Mm.
medicine is how can we send fit pilots, engineers, like people that have no illnesses, no
Right.
comorbidities, right?
Right.
To space so that they can survive for a few days and come back, right? No, now they want
Mm-hmm.
to make it so that we live up there
Live there.
and
Mm.
sleep and eat and do everything that humans do in space to thrive up there.
Mm.
We were supposed to have had nurses already
Mm.
building these things, and there are
Yeah.
some, but we need more.
Yeah.
So
When
mhm.
I'm sorry to cut you off. So when these astronauts and pilots and people are going to space, they are going without a medical team, or are they going like clad with medication? Well, like what are they going with that if something happens, they're being taken care of?
So right now, the way that it is, as far as like government space, NASA, and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of training in everything that could go wrong, right? They have, right, that's how they train them. And for the most part, training for when this thing breaks, or those are things that you can make like manuals about, and you can drill that
Yeah.
into them and they can do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Astronauts right now have about 40 to 60 hours of medical training, which is, as you know, nothing.
Right. I was going to say.
So, as you know, there is a flight surgeon that is
Yeah.
on the ground, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
for our purposes of low Earth orbit, which is the space station, which is like just hovering right outside,
Yeah.
that's not a problem, right? It takes them a few minutes to call and a few minutes to answer back. So, a flight surgeon on the ground and like a biomedical engineer, like manning the vitals,
Mm-hmm.
is all that's necessary for that. Okay, they
Right.
can call, they can
Okay.
get their answer, and then they could do it. But if we're talking about going out to Mars, right, where we're having that long communications delay, you're going to need more than that. You're going to need probably like a crew medical officer or something like that that can be out there with them to actually do these
Mm-hmm.
things. As of right now, their focus is on clinical decision support systems, which are essentially AIs, right? That if the person on board doesn't know how to do something, right? Like if they have
Mm-hmm.
to do an ultrasound on the belly or something,
Yeah.
the fast scan that we know in trauma, and they don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to do it because they weren't trained how to do it, then they can get their AI and the AI can walk them through it, right? Or like, oh, my person has, belly problems. And then the
Yeah.
AI can give them an algorithm to kind of figure out what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I am, and a lot of us already know, I am a nurse, and I'm also a paramedic. So in paramedicine, you can make all of the protocols that you want. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're never going to have a protocol that will have an answer for every single problem. Okay. So as far as AI goes, AI is a great
Mm-hmm.
tool to augment the human, right?
Yeah.
But it cannot replace the human.
That's right.
So I think that instead of focusing on one doctor and an AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need the doctor to create the programs and oversee the program, right?
Yeah.
But as of right now, they have the doctor doing all like the operational things. Okay, in the
Mm-hmm.
hospital, the doctors don't put the IVs, they don't change the wound
Mm-hmm.
dressings, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Can they?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, right? But
Mm-hmm.
should
Mm-hmm.
they? No, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's too much
Mm-hmm.
cognitive
Right.
load on one person.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think that the
Makes
nurse fits
sense.
in that role perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's just a mirror of what happens on Earth. There's no reason why one person should be doing like 2 people or 3 people's job. It reduces the burnout on the physician as well as the nurse if they can kind of collaborate and work together. And I think that it really speaks to that hierarchy again that we see in medicine. It's long-standing. We know it exists. It's kind of like if we have a doctor, we don't really need a nurse, but that's not how things work on Earth. And so
Exactly.
it doesn't change.
I had a person, I remember she was very like adamant in my comments. I had a doctor who works in remote medicine in Australia. You know, the bush is like the most remote, right?
Yeah.
And she was like kind of arguing with me that like nurses are a luxury. Nurses are a luxury. We don't need them. Like I could train my son to hold C-spine and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, I understand in the wilderness, right? You probably feel that way. But that is, like I said, a lot of cognitive load on one person, right? You want to really use all of your resources to train a doctor to do these skills that they don't usually do. Like, oh, I could do the wound care. But should you? Right?
When was the last time you even had to do it?
Right.
Training. Right. That's not really what you do.
Right. It's just changing that mindset, because there is a mindset in aerospace that like, you know, there even was a paper that I talked about on LinkedIn that says that nurses and paramedics are like level 4 and 5. So they rate like physicians and all healthcare providers from 1 to 5, right? With like a specialist number 1, and like, I don't know, like a CNA is number 5, right? So like nurses fall is number 3, with a resident as number 2. So a doctor 1, a resident 2, a nurse 3, a paramedic 4, and an EMT and CNA 5, right? And they were like, and the paper literally said healthcare providers from 3, 4, and 5 have no bearing on patient outcomes. Which, reading that, right, I'm like, what? Right? I continued to read the paper. It was like, oh, it's because they can't diagnose anything. And then you're like, but what does that have to do? Like, sometimes
with the total overall patient wellness and healing and experience.
So that tells
all of it matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That
even the CNA, 1 to 5, all important, and they shouldn't be a ranking like that, because it presupposes that one person is less important than the other.
Exactly. And not only that, but it tells me that they're thinking that we are only task oriented, right?
Absolutely.
The doctor says, and you do. Right? Which, as we all know, it's way more than that, right? It's literally like, okay, make sure that wound doesn't go bad. Not, you know what I mean? And we will go and we will change the dressing, but we will also assess the wound and change the dressing based off of what.
Right.
So it's and that paper made me see that they don't know that. They don't know what they even need to be able to say what a nurse can do.
Now, not all physicians, so let's caveat that, because not all of physicians.
Yes,
I mean, some people have.
Yes, but
aerospace. Okay, I don't know much about the aerospace industry. I have to be honest.
No, definitely, but definitely the aerospace is a step behind space medicine in that we are more of a team now down here. You know, it's not like doctor up here, nurse over here. We're a team.
Absolutely.
But in space medicine, they're kind of still back in the, you know.
We have a ways to go.
Yeah.
And Christine is the bridge. You're the bridge. You're dismantling that hierarchy. So we're counting on you. But I would say, like, on a personal level, right? What would you say has been the hardest part of trying to carve out such a unique niche branch of nursing in a field that wasn't even built with us in mind, right? Like,
I definitely think the hardest part is that, okay, so whenever I talk to people about it, they're kind of like, that's such a niche, like a super niche, that they kind of feel like the people that are interested in this is probably only me and like a couple other people. But I feel like the reason why it may seem like that is because nurses don't know what they could do and how they could be helpful.
Right.
Because people always come up to me and they're like, whoa, this is so cool. Like everybody's
Mm-hmm.
interested, right? But
Mm-hmm.
because of the lack of a pathway, right? They just
Yeah.
see it like a cool hobby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Mm.
I think that it may seem super niche because of that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that has really
Yeah.
been like the more difficult part is kind of, getting people to understand that there are things you could do and ways that you can help. And there are actually concrete things
Yeah.
within there.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And I think, that is the big thing that the Space Nurse LLC is trying to address, is creating and carving out that pathway, if I'm correct, of nurses going from, okay, I have my bachelor's. I might be interested in space. I don't know, but nurses don't really have a place in space. And it's really taking that nurse from where they are to here. These are the steps to get you where we need to be. And while we may not quite have a seat at the table, we can build one together, and not wait for somebody to invite us to it. I appreciate that, this part of your journey. It's so worthwhile. It's such a great mission. I think that anything that elevates the nursing profession, I am 150,000% on board. So thank you for using your voice. What would you consider as like your peak? If this happened for you, you would feel the most fulfilled as a nurse?
I think that once I see more nurses speaking in more like futuristic technological space medicine conferences, I would be like really
Yeah.
happy. I
Yeah.
want to see more nurses on the boards of these big space organizations. And there are a lot of them that are coming up. If you pay any
Mm-hmm.
attention to the space industry, it's like about to explode. So I think that as long as there are more nurses at the table and there's more nurses involved and more nurses shaping these things, I would love to see it. Besides the fact that I would also love to see like a space nurse certification, I'm part of
Yeah.
allied health and nursing arm of the Aerospace Medicine Organization, the ASMA.
Yeah.
Aerospace Medicine Association has a
Mm-hmm.
has a nursing and allied health arm. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
part of that organization that's trying to create a space nurse certification. And the first
Yeah.
step is creating the textbook for space
Yeah.
nursing, which I'm writing chapter 22 of. So once we get that, so in order to make a certification, you have to have like a body of work and,
Yeah.
once that comes out and like a certification is a reality, then we can kind of start, turning I'm already turning my focus towards nurses, but
Yeah.
there's kind of like more to offer when you
Yeah.
have those things.
I'm like brimming with pride. That's amazing. I really like what you've said, is that we're keeping nurses as nurses, like by teaching them the language of engineering. We're not trying to make them into engineers, but we're trying to make them into co-designers so that we don't end up just being end users, which is what always happens in biotechnology. They create these things that nurses are supposed to utilize in practice, and we have no say so in the building of it. And everyone's frustrated because they're like, who built this? Like, who who was thinking about us when they built this? Because this does not meet any of our needs. And that's why nurses need to be at the forefront of everything health related, everything people related, because we are there from start to finish. And so
Absolutely. And that's
yeah.
like a biotechnology, at least biotechnology, like step one is in
Hmm.
the human systems engineering like textbooks and things like
Yeah.
that. They literally
Yeah.
say that the end user, or they call it something else, that the person that's
Hmm.
getting the product has to be
Hmm.
part of the
They
thing
have to
from
be a
start, middle, and
consultant.
finish.
They
Exactly.
have to be literally a consultant.
How can you create anything without the
Yeah.
person that is going to use it? You have to,
Yeah.
and even if you go into like Lean Six Sigma and all that stuff,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
even talks about like the all the wastes. There's like the seven wastes or something like that, and one of them is waste that occur because you created a poor project, a poor
Right.
product.
Right. Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's like unconscionable that we're not even there already. Like I was
Yeah.
like shocked
Yeah.
that I was like,
Mm-hmm.
so nobody's gonna say anything,
Yeah.
and I was like, I
Like
guess
you
I
create it
will.
and you just hope you hope it will work,
Right.
and then when it doesn't, that's the waste, because then the system, the people that are utilizing it complain, and then they're like, all right, we can't use this. That was a waste. You just wasted all those resources.
Yep.
So for a nurse who is listening, right, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but for the nurse who's listening and feels a tug towards something bigger, right, space, STEM, like moving forward in other STEM fields, maybe something that even scares them a little bit, because I know that for you to have done this, you must have felt afraid, right? And just did it afraid anyway. What is a brief step that they can take today? You talked about an organization. Like, what can they do as a first step? Can they join an organization? Like, can they reach out to you? What can they do?
Definitely reach out to me, right? I would say
Mm,
that because I did a lot of things just kind of like blindly. And so if I can like help navigate you in any way, I definitely will. On my
absolutely.
website, thespacenurse.com, I have, if you sign up for just like to the email list, you'll
Mm-hmm.
automatically get the Space Nurse 101, which is
Mm-hmm.
literally, okay, step one, sign up to these specific organizations because some are,
Right.
more nurse friendly than others, right? So
Yeah.
so it would be that. And then, oh, are you interested? Do you want to try and do you want to see if you're interested in space medicine in
Mm-hmm.
general? Well, there's like a free
Mm-hmm.
class here that you can take, and it's
Yeah.
just like the little
Wow.
things that you can learn from
That's
space medicine.
amazing.
I think it's on Coursera that it's there's like a space medicine class, and it's
Yeah.
literally just like the bite size for
Yeah.
you. And
Absolutely.
if you listen to that and you're like, oh, this is cool, I want to learn more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of fumbling around and like looking around here and spending a whole bunch of money like I did trying to find like
Mm-hmm.
information or downloading like these like technical manuals that NASA, because NASA
Mm-hmm.
has free stuff for you guys. But
Mm-hmm.
again, they're not speaking your language. So
Yeah.
these are like space medicine but very technical reports, right? That you can
Yeah.
download. NASA
Yeah.
standard 3001 is one that if you want to sit down and go through all of the pages and try and figure out,
Mm.
what you can get from it, you can.
Absolutely.
But I on my website I also have the orbital patient, which is kind of like a deep dive into every body system and what microgravity does to it and why it
Yeah.
matters.
Right.
So
Right.
I have that.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but for if you are sitting here right now and you kind of want to like see, um, kind of get like your dip your toe, I would say go to my
Mm-hmm.
website, thespacenurse.com, and see what you can get from there. Get the Space Nurse
Awesome.
101 and kind of go from there. Use my stuff or jump into all the free stuff that NASA has, which is also on the Space Nurse 101, whichever one you want. But I think that
Nice.
that's a good stepping stone, definitely.
Okay, this is not part of what I was going to ask you, but I'm going to ask you. Can you tell me like two body systems and what happens to them while they're in space, just for people to get an idea?
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna tell you one that's like they're putting a lot of money into because
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of scary and they have no answer for this right now. There is something that affects the eyes, and it's called SANS, which is space flight associated neuroocular syndrome, right? So
Oh.
essentially, when your body is floating in space, your eyeballs, right? Your eyeballs are perfect globes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in space, your eyeballs do this, right? So they
Wow.
flatten. And when your eyeballs flatten, it pinches your optic nerve. Okay? So when your optic nerve gets pinched over time, okay? So if we're talking about weeks and months that you're in
Mm-hmm.
space,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to start to affect your vision. And there are actually astronauts that have come back and still have vision problems because of spaceflight associated neuroocular syndrome. And when I
Mm.
tell you that they are dumping money into trying to figure out how to fix this because they don't know how to fix it yet, which
Wow.
is crazy to me because you're talking about making hotels in space, but you don't have an answer for spaceflight associated neuroocular syndrome, right?
Wow.
So that's one body system, the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The other body system that is interesting to me is the heart.
Mm-hmm.
As we know, the reason why our muscles work, right? The way that we keep our muscles up on space in Earth is
Yeah.
literally because gravity is pushing down on us, right? So every time we
Yeah.
walk, right, we're pumping our legs
Mm-hmm.
and our muscles are working, right? Even if you're
Yeah.
sedentary, just the simple fact that gravity is pushing down on you keeps your muscles alive.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in space and you're floating, okay, your body is like, oh, muscles. I don't need those. Okay. So think of it like an ICU patient, right? So after a
Yeah.
while of being bedridden, their
Atrophy.
muscles start to atrophy. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
In microgravity, it's the same thing. Your muscles are going to start
Yeah.
to atrophy because you're not using them,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're not
Using
walking, you're
them. Yeah.
floating. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is why you see astronauts exercising a lot in space. They have like special
Mm.
treadmills that like where you're wearing like a belt that holds you down.
That
Yeah,
holds you
and
down. Yeah, I've seen
they
those.
have to
Yeah.
exercise at least 2 hours every day, right? To be able to keep their muscles to
Meets the
a level
requirements of,
that
yeah,
they
like
can do
walking
things.
while you're on Earth.
Yes,
Yeah.
because when they're in space, they still have to work. They still have to do experiments and things like that.
Right.
So they have to keep their muscles up. Your heart is a muscle. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that and other things, your heart muscle also atrophies. And so astronauts are more prone to lethal rhythms after a while. So
Right.
they actually had an astronaut who had a run of VTAC, and they had to kind of like watch him. It wasn't
Mm.
like, obviously he had VTAC and he had the run of VTAC and then it stopped. But over time, if we're going to Mars 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and our
Mm-hmm.
heart is not able to really
Work
handle
out
our
of rhythm.
fluids, which by
Mm-hmm.
the way, when we're floating in space, all of our fluids float up.
Oh
Okay. So
gosh.
all the blood that's in your legs, right, that has to be pumped out of your
Mm-hmm.
legs is now sitting in your chest and in your head.
Oh
Okay.
gosh.
So now your heart that is deconditioned, right,
Mm-hmm.
now has to figure out what to do with all that extra fluid,
Fluid in.
right?
What are we doing up there anyway? Just stay on Earth.
Right. So it's like, and again, they have a
Listen to
lot
me.
of, right, the specialty of space medicine comes from having to figure out what to do with all these things, right?
Mm.
But they're ramping up, trying to, live out there. We need more people working on this. There is one thing. Oh, and a lot of people are like, well, okay, like I get it. Like that's kind of like a small sector, though. Like there's people we're worried about hotels. Like a lot of people on Earth kind of don't understand because there's a lot going on. Rightly so.
Mhm.
They're like, why are we worried about this stuff? Right? Let's just not go up there. Right? But a lot of the medicine from space translates to Earth. So a lot of our telemedicine that we have
Mhm.
now comes from making satellites for that.
Mm.
Our point of care ultrasound. So like, have you seen the little butterfly machine?
No.
It's like a
For
portable
ultrasound
ultrasound.
machines? Oh wow.
The portable ultrasound was created for remote and wilderness medicine, right? So
Wow.
anything for space translates to Earth because anything for space we need to make portable, we need to make it small, we need to make it light,
Right.
right?
Right.
Anything
Right.
for space can come down and help us in low resource areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hospitals that can't afford MRI and CT scans because they exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
We that live in cities don't think that, but there are hospitals that can't use that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they can use the point of care ultrasound because that's less expensive. And it's just as good as a CT
Wow.
at the bedside. So anything that we spend money on to make for space can help Earth in low resource areas and remote areas and places that, don't have all this money for all of these diagnostic tools. It does help us on
Mm.
Earth. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the trade-off for people that are like, why do we even care about this?
I guess. I mean, you're right. I mean, we could have created it with the low resource areas in mind.
I mean, listen, we can talk about that.
Instead of creating it for space and then translating.
We can talk about that, but you know, we live in a
I'm just
capitalist
being devil's
society. But
advocate.
let's move on from
I
that.
know. We do. I mean, yeah, I know that there's a lot of space. I mean, a lot of technology that is created for space. I mean, and this has been going on forever. We're not going to stop now. All we have to do is modify and, make it better and involve the right parties, right? And the healthcare and the medicine and, the maybe an ophthalmologist probably. we need all of these. We need all these hands on deck. So
Absolutely, and you understand. And instead of waiting for the corporations to do it when it makes sense to them monetarily, if the
Yeah.
nurses are in there, we need this
Yeah.
because somebody
Yeah.
can get hurt without it, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
also that's why I want nurses to be part of it.
Yeah, we absolutely need to be part of it. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Let's play our game.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm not even going to play the game. I'm just going to cheat because as we were talking in the beginning, you mentioned a genre that you really loved growing up, and it was sci-fi. So I'm just going to pretend I'm shaking this, but girl, your category is sci-fi. I'm not even going to read it.
Hallelujah. What if you had said like
Hallelujah.
rom-com or something?
So-
I would have been screwed.
No, I'm not doing that. Sci-fi, go for it.
So I'm making like a show or something about sci-fi.
Yes, that has a nurse in the lead and kind of what you would like to see that show be.
I was talking to my daughter about this, so it actually fits because I like the idea of, because kids are the ones that really like, they're the ones that have the freedom to like think above and beyond, right?
Mhm,
So I like the idea of having like a sci-fi kids show, right? And it would be like a young girl who has like healing powers, right?
Wow.
But she lives in a community that's like very like engineering, science, based or whatever. And she is like at first having to like hide her healing powers because they don't understand it. But then eventually she helps someone using her healing powers and everybody's like, oh, like what's
Nice.
that? Like, oh my God, she has healing powers. Like, and so she ends up using her healing powers and her ability to do engineering together to like create like some kind of I don't know, like a space force or something that can do
Nice.
both.
Nice. I love it.
And if you go on my website, I have like a little logo that's like a helmet with like a heart in the middle, and like that little logo would be like her little like computer friend that like follows her around.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Is so cool, and I love that it's a girl.
Yeah, of course. She's a brown girl with curly hair. Come on.
I love it.
I know you can't see her right now because I got it slicked down, but I have a crown.
Oh, I know. I can tell. You didn't have to tell me, girl. I already know. I know you do. Thank you so much. That was great. It was just been awesome talking to you. I think that you have a great mission, and I look forward to seeing all that nurses can do on Earth and beyond. Thank you, not just for sharing the science and the strategy and all of that, but the soul behind it, the soul behind your work. And your journey proves that nursing is not limited. We're not limited by any means. We are at the bedside, but we are also beyond. And nursing follows humanity wherever we dare to go. So just to every listener who's out there, I hope that this episode has done a good job of reminding you that your gifts can make room for you and can take you places that you've never imagined, and that your voice has a seat at the tables that even have not been built yet. And we can build the tables ourselves and invite others to come and sit with us. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. And we will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Thanks for hanging with me till the end. I hope you gained some valuable insight into the world of nursing. If today's episode inspired you, please like, subscribe,
and share with someone who needs to hear about the amazing work nurses are doing. Let's keep breaking stereotypes and reshaping the narrative together. I'll see you next time.